Welcome to Beyond the Stars, where love, rebellion, and the unexpected collide in galaxies far from home. Tonight's story begins not with a hero, but with a shipping error. Logan West was just trying to visit his grandmother. One wrong gate, and he lands on a planet where humans are pets, and royalty shops for them like fashion accessories. But this exotic acquisition refuses to sit, stay, or roll over, especially when his new owner is a stunning alien princess, who may be falling for him. Get ready for sarcasm, scandal, and a kiss that launches a revolution. This is Wrong Planet, Right Princess, and nothing will ever be the same again. Chapter 1. Wrong Ramp, Wrong Planet. The landing ramp of the interstellar cruiser hissed open, exhaling a pressurized plume of mist onto the docking platform. Logan West squinted against the blinding light, the scent of sterilized metal and ozone sharp in his nose. In his hands was a small box wrapped in shimmering holographic foil, a handwritten note taped to the top. To my favorite grandson, waiting for you on Earth with pie and love, Grandma. Logan adjusted his scuffed leather jacket and stepped forward, expecting to see balloons, maybe even a goofy homemade sign with his name on it. He could already imagine his grandmother's blackberry pie, crust golden, filling just tart enough. The thought made him smile. But as the mist cleared, the smile vanished. What the hell, he muttered, blinking rapidly. Where he expected Earth's familiar terminals, people, and blue skies, there were instead mountains, but not ordinary ones. The terrain around him rippled in undulating pink dunes, stretching far into the lavender horizon. Above, emerald green ribbons danced across the sky, twisting like sentient auroras. And instead of a human welcome party, a group of six-legged, purple-skinned insectoids stood at the base of the ramp, their antennae waving excitedly as they chittered to one another. Logan stared at them, stunned. "Grandma, did you upgrade or something?" One of the insectoids stepped forward, holding a sleek translation device. It buzzed and clicked, then spoke in a rapid cadence. "Welcome to Arexia 5, most exclusive destination in the galaxy." Logan took a full step back. No. This is wrong. I was going to Earth. Earth, planet Earth, Milky Way, blue marble. Where's the ocean and oxygen? He frantically dug into his jacket pocket and pulled out his digital boarding pass. His stomach dropped as he stared at it. Base 71. I was supposed to be on base 17. 17, he yelled at the insectoids. Someone mixed up the numbers. The creatures simply chittered louder as if amused. The communicator on his wrist beeped with an automated message. Delivery confirmed. Fee paid in full by recipient. Enjoy your stay, Exotic 283. What the? Exotic what? I'm a human being, not a collector's item. He spun around, but the ship that had brought him here was already lifting off. The ramp had retracted, engines glowing bright blue. His ride was gone. Desperation kicked in. Logan sprinted toward the docking terminal, or what he assumed was a terminal, and slammed his hand on a glass interface. Emergency services! I need emergency evac. I'm not supposed to be here. The screen lit up with foreign symbols before slowly translating. Function unavailable to unregistered entities. Of course, he groaned, thumping his forehead against the console, because I don't exist on this stupid pink rock. Where a soft clink interrupted him. A small metallic disc had landed on his head. Before he could reach for it, a pleasant mechanical voice whispered, "Tracking beacon activated. Prepare for collection." "What tracking beacon?" he shouted, grabbing for the device. The floor beneath him suddenly vanished. Logan plummeted into a tunnel of swirling light, the world warping around him as he fell. He screamed, not out of fear, but rage and sheer disbelief, clutching the gift box like a lifeline. Wind, or something like it, whipped at his face as his body was pulled downward through colors he didn't have words for. When he finally landed, it was on something soft and slightly warm. Groaning, Logan opened his eyes to find himself sprawled on a plush rose-colored carpet that pulsed beneath him like a heartbeat. He pushed himself up, blinking again. That's when he saw them. Delicate purple feet, perfectly sculpted calves. A figure that was definitely not his grandma. Hovering above him was a tall, violet-skinned woman with luminous blue eyes and silver hair braided over one shoulder. She wore a loosely draped robe that shimmered like moonlight, and she was smiling. "You're even more beautiful than the catalog photos," she said, stepping closer. Logan scrambled to his feet. "Photos? Who? What are you? Why are you looking at me like I'm a prize at a carnival?" The woman laughed, a sound like bells underwater. "I'm Princess Aria Virellian. And you, Logan West, belong to me now." Chapter 2, The Pet Market Princess. High above the shimmering skyline of HFY, in the imperial palace carved from living crystal, Princess Aria Virellian lounged in her private chambers like a goddess bored with perfection. Crystalline stalactites drooped from the ceiling, refracting light into cascading rainbows across polished obsidian floors. Around her, hundreds of holographic projections flickered, images of alien creatures from across the galaxy, each one available for private ownership. A digital interface hovered near her reclined form, controlled by the subtle wave of a hand. "Boring," Arya muttered, dismissing another entry with a flick of her fingers. "I've already owned a Kralaxian glider." "And that pseudo-dog?" "So last season." Her assistant, Talia Virellian, older sister, court advisor, and occasional instigator, stood beside her, arms crossed, trying not to roll her eyes. "Perhaps you're being too picky. Not everyone requires their pet to be rebellious with intense eye contact." "I don't want a pet that obeys. I want one that surprises me," Arya sighed, stretching lazily. Her silken robe slipped from one shoulder, revealing a glowing tattoo that pulsed faintly with her biorhythm. Something alive. Something human. Talia's brow twitched. "You're joking." "Am I?" Arya smiled, wicked and radiant. At that exact moment, the catalog shimmered with a flicker of light, an alert for a new listing. Intrigued, Arya leaned in. A blurred image resolved into the figure of a tall, dark-haired male, confused, mid-sentence, mid-motion, clutching a box wrapped in holographic paper. Exotic, AU-183, warm-blooded, bipedal, highly vocal, unpredictable, guaranteed to provoke emotional fluctuation. Limited stock due to planetary embargo. Arya's pupils widened. "Is that a real Earth human?" Talia arched an elegant brow. "They've been banned from intergalactic trade for decades. There was a diplomatic scandal involving cultural contamination." "All the more reason to act now," Arya whispered. With a tap of her finger, the display blinked. "ADD to cart. Express delivery. Confirm." Talia opened her mouth to object, but paused. Her sister's expression wasn't just amusement anymore. There was hunger there. Curiosity. Too late to stop her now. Back at the Erexian spaceport, Logan was deep in a losing battle with the so-called public communication terminal. It refused to recognize his voice commands or facial identity, flashing the same infuriating error message. "Unregistered entity. Functions disabled." "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered, slamming his palm against the smooth interface. "I'm not asking for a luxury hotel, just a way home." Alien bystanders had begun to gather, most of them humanoid, tall and lithe, with glowing markings that pulsed when they whispered to each other. Logan noticed the way they stared at him, not with concern, but fascination. One of them even held up a crystal-like device, clearly recording. "Look, it's moving its mouth again. It's vocalizing in full sentences. It's twitching its eyebrows." Logan backed away. "Okay, I know I'm the only guy here with hair that doesn't glow, but I'm not a sideshow, all right?" Something metallic clicked onto his scalp. "What the hell?" He reached up, feeling a small, cold disc now latched onto his head. A cheerful female voice chimed, seemingly from thin air. "Tracking beacon activated. Preparing for royal collection." Before Logan could curse, the floor beneath him pulsed and vanished. Again. He was sucked into a vortex of pink and teal light, spinning through a tunnel of warped space until, thud, he landed face first into something soft, squishy, and faintly humming. Groaning, Logan pushed himself up onto his elbows. He blinked. Before him stood the same violet-skinned woman he'd seen only moments ago, long silver braids cascading over her shoulder, her robe still infuriatingly open at the front. Her electric blue eyes scanned him with scientific fascination. And something else. Desire. "You're even more fascinating in person," she said, stepping closer. Okay, listen, Logan said, raising both hands. There's been a giant misunderstanding. I was headed to Earth, you know? Dirt planet, real ugly politics, okay food. My grandma is probably panicking. You're Logan West, she said, ignoring his protests. I'm Princess Aria Virellian, and as of 30 minutes ago, you are mine. He blinked. Nope, nope. That's not how this works. I'm a man, not a mattress. You can't buy people. Anorexia, you can, Aria replied sweetly. I also own that chaise lounge, that crystal tree, and now you. Ooh, cool. So slavery's still trending out here? Logan muttered, slowly backing toward what he hoped was a door. But as it slid open, he froze. It wasn't an exit. It was a giant bathroom, glowing pools, floating towels, and walls that literally breathed. Aria appeared behind him like a shadow. Where are you going, pet? She whispered, her voice a purr. Don't call me that. I'll call you whatever I want, she replied, reaching to touch his cheek. Logan recoiled. I'm not your toy. But you are something new, Aria murmured, circling him like a cat observing a laser pointer. And I do love surprises. Chapter 3. The Collection in the Cage. Logan paced the perimeter of the crystalline chamber like a lion in a particularly luxurious cage. Every time he tried to touch a wall, the surface responded with a soft, reactive glow. Not hot, not cold, but disturbingly alive. He had given up trying to find a door. Everything in this palace seemed designed to disorient and awe him in equal measure. Princess Aria lounged nearby on a floating chaise, sipping from a translucent glass of something that glowed faintly green. She was studying him again, not like a person, but like a rare artifact. Her gaze was equal parts curious and entertained. I don't understand why you're so upset, she said at last, swirling her drink. I gave you food, a beautiful room, even privacy. Most exotics don't get half as much. Because I'm not an exotic, Logan snapped. I'm a human being, a person, not a damn collectible. Aria tilted her head. You keep saying that like it changes something. It should. He threw up his hands. I'm from Earth. We don't buy people anymore. That kind of thing went out with powdered wigs and public beheadings. Charming, Aria said dryly. But on Anorexia, ownership is fluid. I own estates, creatures, art, and now apparently you. It's all perfectly legal. Logan laughed, but there was no humor in it. Legal doesn't mean right. Ever heard of ethics? Before Aria could reply, a soft chime rang from a panel embedded in the far wall. She rose gracefully and touched it. A glowing projection materialized. A tall, violet-skinned figure with dark ceremonial markings on his face and a pair of twitching antennae. His uniform was sharp, imposing, some kind of bureaucratic military. Princess Aria, the projection intoned, I am Inspector Reldon of the Exotic Species Regulation Bureau. We've received notice of your acquisition. I am required to perform an evaluation before you can receive permanent ownership certification. Of course, Aria said smoothly. You're welcome to examine him. Logan's eyebrows shot up. Wait, what certification? The projection flickered out. Great, Logan muttered. I'm being processed like a toaster. Within minutes, the room's entrance dissolved open, and Inspector Reldon entered in full form, flanked by 2 guards. He held a crystalline tablet, its surface already flashing with data. Begin scan, he instructed without preamble. A floating drone emerged from his belt and began circling Logan, emitting beams of light and soft whirring sounds. Logan flinched as the machine passed near his ear. Hey, back off. You need my consent for this kind of thing. Objection recorded, Reldon replied flatly, tapping his tablet. Noted for classification review. This is insane, Bart, Logan muttered, jerking his head away from the drone. I told you, I'm not a product. I got here by accident. Reldon ignored him. Bipedal, vocal, displays rudimentary emotional variance. Articulation unusually advanced. Possibly pre-programmed mimicry. I'm not mimicking anything, Logan shouted. Aria, now standing at a polite distance, gave him a sympathetic glance. He's very expressive, isn't he? Logan spun on her. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Actually, yes. You're the first acquisition I've had that talks back. Reldon's antenna twitched. Interesting. Do you know your serial designation? I have a name, Logan shouted. Logan West. I'm from California. I was supposed to eat pie with my grandma, not be scanned like a smart fridge. Reldon paused, then turned to Arya. Your Highness, this subject may be a sentient class entity. If so, it requires an entirely different permit, additional diplomatic clearances, and quantum bonding registration. Arya's brow furrowed. My sister said nothing about that. She told me this model was rare but legal. If it's a true sentient, Reldon said, lowering his scanner with sudden caution, and you lack proper documentation, ownership is not permitted. In fact, possession could be a violation of at least 14 interstellar trade laws. Finally, Mabon, Logan said, stepping forward. Some sanity. Reldon eyed him. Unfortunately, if he is undocumented and unclaimed by any recognized interplanetary authority, I must place him in containment for full biological evaluation and possible reclamation. Logan froze. Reclamation? Disassembly, Reldon said bluntly, for component analysis. Arya's eyes widened slightly. That won't be necessary. I'm afraid it's protocol. Panic surged through Logan. He glanced at Arya, and she, surprisingly, looked conflicted. In a last-ditch effort, he did the only thing he could think of. Without warning, he stepped forward, grabbed Arya by the shoulders, and kissed her. Hard. The room fell into stunned silence, then alarms exploded, panels lit up red, sirens blared from hidden walls. A deep mechanical voice echoed across the chamber. Code critical, unauthorized synchronization detected. Emergency protocol activated. Reldon's scanner hit the floor. Arya blinked, lips parted, stunned. Logan stepped back, panting. Okay, he muttered, so that wasn't part of the plan. Chapter 4, Bureaucracy and the Kiss. The sirens kept howling. Red lights flashed from unseen panels. The once luxurious chamber now felt like the inside of a warship mid-invasion. Automated drones descended from the ceiling, scanning Arya and Logan as the system blared warnings in a language that barely sounded translated. Critical biosynchronization detected. Exotic has initiated contact with owner. Potential violation of hierarchy protocols. Initiating containment procedures. What the hell is biosynchronization? Logan yelled over the alarm. It's... Arya's voice trailed as she touched her lips. Her glowing blue eyes were wide, stunned. It's not supposed to happen. Not with humans. Yeah? Well, I wasn't exactly planning to lip-sync my DNA with royalty today either. Inspector Reldon had gone pale, or whatever the Erexian equivalent of pale was, and scrambled to pick up his scanner from the floor. This is unprecedented, he muttered, antennae twitching wildly. Exotic initiated intimate contact with owner. Forbidden, highly irregular, possibly dangerous. Possibly dangerous? Logan echoed. What about possibly trying not to get dissected? The guards raised their crystalline weapons in response, forming a circle around him. Exotic will be detained for further analysis, Reldon announced. I recommend immediate transfer to the Sentient Species Registry Holding Center. Arya stepped forward, regal posture reasserting itself. As the registered owner, I demand to accompany my subject during processing. Reldon hesitated. You may observe, Princess, but all security protocols must be enforced. Logan didn't even protest this time. He was too busy calculating whether kissing a space princess had just signed his death warrant or saved his life. 15 minutes later, Logan found himself in a transport pod flanked by armed guards. Arya sat beside him in stony silence, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Despite everything, her robe still flowed like a waterfall of moonlight, unbothered by bureaucracy or alarm codes. Just to be clear, Logan muttered, that kiss, desperation, not seduction. Arya didn't look at him. Understood. Although you didn't exactly push me away. Her lips twitched. They arrived at a towering facility built into the side of a crystalline cliff. Its spires gleamed like ice, but Logan felt no chill, only dread. A sign above the entrance scrolled in Erexian script before translating, Center for the Evaluation and Return of Sentient Species. Return, Logan whispered. That sounds promising. Not necessarily, Arya said quietly. Inside, the place felt like a cross between a high-end lab and a government-run pet shelter. Transparent partitions lined the walls, each housing a different creature, some humanoid, others not, all being examined, tagged, and filed. They were met by a stern-looking Erexian woman in a white clinical uniform with glowing cuffs on both wrists. Her expression was less curious, more efficient. "Princess Aria," she said with a nod. "I'm Director Mila Serex. I've been briefed on your situation. I insist that Logan be treated with dignity," Aria stated firmly. "He's not just another exotic." "We'll let the scans determine that," Serex replied. "This way, please." Logan was led into a chamber filled with sleek medical equipment. He sat obediently. What choice did he have? While machines scanned him, poked him, and even took a hair sample. "Not a fan of being treated like a lab rat," he muttered. Serex was already making notes. Species, human, planet of origin, Earth, vocal range, complex, behavior, flirtatious, resistance to domestication, high. "I can hear you, you know," Logan said. "I'm sitting right here." Serex didn't glance up. Mimicry patterns, extremely convincing. Logan turned to Aria in disbelief. "Please, tell them I'm not faking, that I'm real." Aria stepped forward, hesitant. "He speaks, reasons, even resists. He kissed me to save himself." "That isn't programmed behavior." Serex offered a cold smile. "Princess, it's common for owners to anthropomorphize their pets, especially after emotional events. We call it biosync bias. You're experiencing a temporary illusion of empathy." "It's not an illusion." "Oh," Logan said, her voice tight. "I'm not a damn dog with a vocabulary upgrade." But his words seemed to slide off the system like water on crystal. Serex raised a crystalline cuff. "Exotic 283 is now officially registered. Attempted escapes will trigger retrieval. Unauthorized relocation constitutes interplanetary smuggling." Logan stared at his wrist where a sleek bracelet had silently locked into place. "So what now?" he asked bitterly. "Now," Serex replied, "you go home with your owner." Back in Aria's transport pod, silence stretched between them again. The city lights outside shimmered like dreams neither of them could trust anymore. "I'm sorry," Aria said at last. "I didn't know you were sentient." Logan stared at her. "And now that you do?" Her eyes met his. "Now I don't know what to do with that." Logan let out a breath. "Try this. Don't call me pet anymore." She nodded slowly. "Deal." Then with a hint of mischief returning to her voice, "What about companion?" He smirked. Getting warmer. Chapter 5, Equal Elevation. The moment Logan stepped back into Arya's chambers, he noticed things had changed. The hovering daybed had been expanded, wider, flatter, and clearly modified to accommodate two occupants. A second wardrobe had appeared along the far wall, containing neatly folded human-style clothing in a dozen sizes and colors. The force field near the entrance had been deactivated, replaced with a panel labeled "Manual Lock for Emergencies Only." But most telling was the new addition in the center of the room, a freestanding human-sized chair that wasn't shaped like a lotus flower or designed to float. Just a chair, solid, with back support. Logan stared at it in disbelief. "You're giving me furniture now?" he said, turning to Arya. "Should I be wagging my tail in gratitude?" Arya, standing beside a crystalline console, didn't rise to the bait. "I asked the palace fabricators for Earth-compatible furnishings. I also requisitioned real coffee. It'll arrive in 2 cycles." Logan blinked. "You got me. Coffee?" "You were agitated. I read that humans respond positively to caffeine and spatial autonomy." He crossed his arms. "You really researched this." "I did," she replied, her voice quieter than usual. "I want you to feel less caged." Logan exhaled, unsure whether to be touched or more suspicious. "Why the sudden kindness?" "Because you're not a pet," Arya said simply, "and I can't ignore that anymore." They stood in silence for a long moment. Then she gestured to the daybed. "Sit with me." Logan arched an eyebrow. "This isn't another scan, is it?" She smirked. "No needles, I promise." He hesitated, then crossed the room and sat beside her. The bed's surface adjusted to his weight, contouring slightly beneath him. Equal elevation, no one perched higher. A small detail, but to Logan, it felt enormous. "So," he began cautiously, Does this mean I get full rights as a person now? Aria glanced away. Not officially. The registry still classifies you as exotic property. Awesome, Logan muttered. Guess I'll just file taxes under sentient adjacent. Aria cracked a small smile. I'm working on it. Just then a chime echoed from her console. You have a visitor scheduled for the public gardens, announced a soft AI voice. Protocol suggests appropriate dress in presentation of companion. Logan frowned. Wait, I'm the companion? I thought you might like to leave the palace, Aria said. See more than just crystal walls. Aurexia is beautiful, you know, outside the bureaucracy. He hesitated. So, we go out together as equals? Publicly? Not exactly, she admitted. Legally, you're still my registered exotic. But socially, she stood and offered her hand. I'll introduce you as my guest. Logan stared at her palm, then slowly took it. The imperial gardens were breathtaking. Floating orbs of water drifted above glowing vines. Trees grown from living crystal pulsed in harmony with the emotions of those nearby, shifting from soft blue to golden amber as Aria and Logan strolled past. In the distance, melodic wind instruments played without visible performers, their sounds generated by the breeze flowing through sculpted mineral arches. But none of that prepared Logan for the stairs. Every Erexian they passed turned to look. Some tilted their heads, intrigued. Others narrowed their eyes in confusion or disapproval. A few young females squealed quietly, hiding behind crystal pillars and pulling out glimmering handhelds to record the moment. Are we trending or something? Logan asked under his breath. Aria glanced at her tablet and smiled. Hashtag human hold my hand just overtook hatch crystal fashion seasonal bloom. You're kidding. I'm not, she said. You've gone viral. They paused beside a koi-like pond where glowing fish performed an intricate synchronized dance. Logan, momentarily distracted by the display, reached out instinctively and took Aria's hand. Gasps erupted around them. A crystalline goblet shattered somewhere in the distance. One elderly noblewoman actually fainted into a floating cushion. What? Logan whispered. Aria's cheeks flushed a deeper violet as she leaned closer. On Aurexia, hand-holding in public is extremely intimate. It's equivalent to a formal bonding proposal. Logan jerked his hand back. Sorry, I didn't mean... But she gripped it tighter. Let them talk, Aria whispered, her eyes gleaming. I've never cared what they think. Why start now? They stood there, hand in hand, as flashes from recording crystals lit the garden. Nobles whispered. Youths gasped. And just like that, Logan West, the human mistake, the accidental delivery, became a cultural revolution. Chapter 6. Viral Sparks and Biological Glitches. By morning, the palace was a hive of quiet panic and not-so-quiet gossip. Across Arexia's crystal net, Logan West's face had been replicated, enhanced, memified, and turned into 100 trending tags. The footage of him holding Princess Aria's hand, innocent by Earth standards, was being dissected frame by political analysts, etiquette scholars, and hormonal teenagers alike. Human hold my hand. Sharash Princess. Pet mad. The exotic revolution, Sci-Fi bonding with biceps Logan, now dressed in an Arexian Earth fusion tunic that looked like a cross between a Jedi robe and a designer hoodie, scrolled through the crystal tablet with a mixture of amusement and horror. They added sparkles to my eyes in this one, he muttered, tilting the screen. I look like an anime space boyfriend. You're welcome, Aria said from across the chamber, sipping something blue and steaming from a delicate goblet. I approve the filters. You what? Public perception management, she said with a perfectly innocent smile. If you're going to be a movement, you should sparkle. Logan set the tablet down and stared at her. Do you even realize what this means? People think we're bonded, mating, interstellar soulmates. Yes. Aria set her drink down, tone suddenly cooler. It's complicated. Complicated? This entire planet is going through a collective cultural meltdown because I accidentally held your hand. You didn't accidentally hold my hand, she said, eyes flashing. Fine, he relented. I instinctively held your hand. Which is worse, Aria murmured. Before Logan could respond, she staggered slightly, one hand flying to her temple. Her silver braids shimmered under the light as she gripped the edge of her console. Whoa, are you okay? Logan crossed the room in 2 strides. I'm fine, she said through clenched teeth, her skin shifting shades, from lavender to an almost pearlescent hue. You look like a mood ring having an identity crisis. It's nothing, she insisted. Just a minor biological cycle. Like a migraine? More like an ancient biochemical drive to seek compatible mates, she muttered, clearly mortified. Usually suppressed with medication. Logan blinked. You mean like heat? She gave him a deadly look. Do not call it that. Okay, you're glowing, you're spiraling, and you're telling me this happens because of me? Aria took a shaky breath, then pulled open a small cabinet beside the console. Inside was a vial of glowing blue liquid. Her hands trembled slightly as she tried to open it. Let me, Logan said, gently taking the vial from her. Their fingers brushed, and she inhaled sharply, her eyes dilating to a nearly full black with just a rim of electric blue. Your touch, it triggers something. Again, not intentional, Logan said quickly, though his heart had started thudding against his ribs. I know, she whispered, voice suddenly deeper, layered, but it's happening anyway. As she gulped down the suppressant, her body seemed to relax, the shimmering under her skin fading to normal. She took another breath and stepped back. I didn't expect it to be this strong, she admitted. Erexian physiology isn't supposed to react this way to other species. Maybe I'm just exceptionally charming. Arya actually laughed, short and reluctant. Or exceptionally disruptive. A soft chime interrupted the moment. The palace AI projected a message. Her Imperial Highness Empress Valoria requests an immediate audience with Princess Aria and her companion. Logan's eyes widened. The Empress? As in your mother? Aria didn't answer at first, then, she's surprisingly open-minded, mostly. Mostly? She legalized atmospheric tattoos and orbital marriage pacts. That sounds promising. She also once had a diplomat exiled for bringing an off-color fruit bouquet to a coronation. Less promising. Aria stood tall, adjusting her robe. We'll face her together. Logan hesitated. Are you sure? No, she said honestly, then glanced at him. But I'm done pretending you're just a pet I forgot to return. They walked side by side through the palace corridors, now filled with nervous staff and cautious glances. Logan could feel the weight of attention pressing in from all sides, like the air itself had thickened with judgment and curiosity. At one point, a young Erexian child peeked from behind a pillar and waved shyly. Logan smiled and waved back. The child gasped and darted away. I think I traumatized him, Logan said. Or made his week, Arya replied. You're his first live human. Lucky him. As the grand doors to the Empress's hall slid open, Logan braced himself. If holding a hand could start a revolution, what would talking to her mother do? Chapter 7. Royal bloodlines and dirty politics. The throne hall of the Imperial Palace was not built for comfort. It was built to intimidate. Massive crystal columns towered overhead, refracting beams of light into shifting patterns across the black stone floor. A silver crest of the royal house, an upward spiraling nebula, cradled by 2 outstretched wings, hung behind the central dais where Empress Valoria sat in full regalia. She was magnificent in the way storms are magnificent, composed, deadly, and impossible to ignore. Her robes shimmered with threads of living metal, and her crown, grown from shaped crystal, pulsed softly with her heartbeat. Her eyes, an intense violet with flecks of gold, rested on Logan with the precision of a weapons system. Arya walked beside him with her chin held high. She didn't flinch, didn't falter. Logan, for his part, tried not to trip. Mother, Arya said formally, bowing, thank you for receiving us. Daughter, the Empress's voice was calm, clipped, regal. You've created quite a stir. I've only done what I believed was right, Arya replied. The Empress's gaze slid to Logan. And you are the cause of this social implosion. Logan cleared his throat. Logan West, ma'am, from Earth. Accidentally delivered here? Not a fan of being called it, but I guess we're past introductions. A flicker of amusement touched the Empress's mouth. You are bold. Mostly terrified, Logan admitted, but I've found confidence is cheaper than armor. Murmurs rippled through the court. Before the Empress could respond, a voice cut in from the side of the hall. sharp, oily, and entirely unwelcome. Your Majesty, if I may interrupt, this creature's presence poses a threat not just to decorum, but to the purity of our bloodlines. Logan turned. A tall, narrow-faced nobleman stepped forward, clad in ceremonial robes and exuding self-importance. Minister Corin Trell, Aria muttered. Here comes the slime. Trell bowed deeply. We of the Preservation Council respectfully request that the human be detained for violating Article 9 of the Genetic Integrity Statutes. Violated? Logan said, incredulous. I accidentally held her hand. An intimate act in public, Trell snapped. And now rumors of biosynchronization. A foreign genome intermingling with the royal line could cause social collapse. I didn't do anything on purpose. The intent is irrelevant. The act is the contamination. Contamination? Arya stepped forward, her voice rising. He's not a disease. He is an exotic. He is a person. Trell looked to the Empress. Your Majesty, I urge immediate containment and evaluation. Should biosynchronization be confirmed, he must be neutralized before further damage is done. Neutralized. The word echoed in Logan's skull. The Empress held up a hand and silence fell. Arya, she said, has there been a biosync event? Arya hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Triggered when he kissed me during an emergency. Gasps. Trell turned red-violet. He kissed? It was a tactical kiss, Logan cut in, to avoid being disassembled. A second round of gasps. The Empress raised an eyebrow. And you consented, Arya? I did not object, she said carefully. And afterward, I felt things. Trell scoffed. Feelings. This is how planets fall. I'd argue we're rising, Logan muttered, then instantly regretted saying it out loud. Enough, the Empress said sharply. She stood, her robes cascading like liquid moonlight. This situation is unprecedented. You're telling me, Logan whispered. The Empress descended the dais and approached him directly. The guards tensed, but she waved them off. Up close, her presence was overwhelming, not because of physical size or grandeur, but the gravity she carried, centuries of rule in every blink. You claim sentience, she said softly. Free will, emotion, intelligence. Yes, ma'am. And you care for my daughter? I don't know what this is yet, Logan said honestly, but I respect her. I don't want to hurt her. And I didn't ask for any of this. The Empress stared at him, then turned to Arya. And you? Arya looked at Logan. I brought him here by accident. I kept him as a curiosity. But now I'm willing to fight for him. The hall was silent. Then the Empress turned to Trell. Minister, until further investigation, Logan West is under my protection. Your Majesty? Enough. If you attempt to detain him, you will answer to me. Trell went pale. Arya exhaled in relief. Logan finally relaxed. Then a tremor pulsed through the floor. A low hum rising quickly. A new voice, mechanical, cold, and official, boomed across the hall. By order of the Council's Emergency Tribunal, Exotic 283 is hereby seized under charges of biological subversion. Guards flooded into the chamber. Arya's eyes blazed. Logan stepped in front of her. Great, he muttered. Round 2. Chapter 8, The Gambit and the Sky That Shattered. The guards advanced in perfect formation, their crystalline weapons glowing with a dangerous hum. Their boots struck the polished obsidian floor in unison as they surrounded Logan, forming a tight circle. He raised his hand slowly. Okay, let's all take a breath. I bruise easily and die permanently. Arya stepped forward, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. By imperial decree, he is under my mother's protection. One of the lead guards, his facial markings denoting high rank, spoke without turning to her. The Council has overruled the Empress through emergency protocol. The tribunal supersedes internal protections during biological emergencies. What biological emergency? Logan snapped. I sneezed during lunch and now I'm a global threat. Your interaction with the princess has triggered biosynchronization, the guard replied flatly. Such events are monitored for genetic influence and contamination. Containment is non-negotiable. Another step closer. They were going to take him. And once he was gone, into some sealed facility where no empress or princess could speak for him, he'd be nothing but tissue samples and case files. Logan's mind raced. He had one shot. So he did what humans had done for centuries when cornered by systems too big to fight. He lied, loudly, with confidence. "Stand down," he barked, his voice rising like a commander on a battlefield. "I invoke Article 7 of Intergalactic Code 141C." The guards hesitated. Even the Empress blinked. "What article?" Aria whispered. "There is no Article 7, Logan muttered from the corner of his mouth. "But they don't know that." He straightened, eyes blazing with mock authority. "Logan West is not just a human. I am Lieutenant Commander of the Central Bureau for Sentient Rights Violations. Deep cover, and assigned to investigate Arexia's trade practices involving exotic classifications." A shocked murmur rippled through the court. The lead guard faltered. "There was no such notification in the registry." "Of course not," Logan said smoothly. "It's called classified for a reason. I came here to verify rumors that your planet was trafficking sentient species under the guise of legal exotic acquisition. And what do I find? A full-blown biosync event with a royal heir and a tribunal dragging me to dissection." He turned to the audience, letting his voice rise. "Tell me, does that sound like innocence to you?" Gasps. Trell's face twisted. "He's bluffing. This is nothing more than a panicked, exotic mimicking command structures." Logan didn't even flinch. "Try me. Contact the Bureau. I'll wait." Silence. Then from above, a sudden tremor shook the hall. A dull boom echoed through the palace. Deep, guttural, like the sound of a god clearing its throat. Everyone looked up. Outside the crystal skylights, shadows began to form. Ships, enormous ones. They descended through the clouds like predators returning to an old hunting ground. Sleek, matte black hulls bristling with weaponry, no glowing banners, no announcements, just the sharp hum of engines tuned for intimidation. Logan recognized the insignia on the largest ship, a silver fist enclosed within a seven-pointed star. He grinned. "Right on time." The Empress's jaw tensed. "You know those ships?" "Yeah," Logan said. "That's my grandma." A blinding beam of light pierced the ceiling, bathing the chamber. Moments later, a squad of armored soldiers materialized in perfect formation. At their center stood a small, steel-haired woman in a long black coat, weighed down with so many metals it looked like she was wearing a trophy shelf. Her voice echoed before she even stepped fully into view. "For heaven's sake, Logan," she snapped, "I send you to deliver a birthday pie, and you start an interstellar incident?" The entire room went silent. "General Margaret West," the Empress murmured, eyes wide. "Central Bureau for the Investigation of Crimes Against Sentient Species," the general said crisply, striding forward. "Effective immediately, Arexia 5 is under investigation for violations of the Galactic Sentience Accord." She turned to the guards. "And if one of you touches my grandson again, I'll have your rank, your weapon, and your kneecaps." Logan exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. "Hi, Nana." Margaret scowled at him. "We are talking about this later." But then she faced the tribunal. "You've been operating outside the bounds of recognized ethics for years," she said. "But kidnapping Earth citizens? Registering sentience as property? That's not just illegal. It's barbaric." Minister Trell stepped forward, shaking. "This is a violation of planetary sovereignty." Margaret cut him off with a raised hand. "Your planet has violated the sovereignty of over 2,000 humans. I've got names, I've got data, and I've got a battalion waiting in orbit who are very eager to enforce interstellar law." She turned to Aria, her gaze softening slightly. "And you must be the one who bought my grandson." Aria squared her shoulders. "I did, but I didn't know what he was. Now I do, and I'm standing with him." Margaret paused, then nodded once. "Well," she said, "at least one of you has good taste." Chapter 9, From Exotic to Essential. 3 months later, the skyline of Arexia 5 was unrecognizable. The once exclusive gardens of the Imperial Palace were now open to all citizens, sparkling under a sky newly mapped with diplomatic satellites. The exotic pet trade had been dismantled by the Bureau, replaced with interstellar cultural exchange programs. And standing at the heart of it all, under a crystal arch woven with living vines and translucent flowers, was Logan West. He wore a tailored hybrid suit, Earth-style tuxedo base woven with Erexian ceremonial patterns, and tried not to squirm under the attention of the cameras, drones, and nobility watching his every move. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, adjusting his collar. "I used to do pizza delivery. Now I'm apparently the human who held hands and changed the stars." Beside him, Arya looked stunning in a gown of shifting violet and gold, both royal and personal. Her silver braids were adorned with fragments of earth opal, and her smile had softened since the day she first tried to call him pet. "You've always been ridiculous," she replied. "Now you're just viral and influential." He sighed. "So is this another diplomatic meet and greet? Because last time someone tried to hand me a fertility idol shaped like me, it was anatomically exaggerated." Arya chuckled. "No, this time it's our moment." She stepped in forward, drawing a small object from her sleeve. A box, no bigger than her palm, wrapped in woven crystal and etched in Earth Standard English. Logan blinked. "Wait, what?" "I wanted to ask first," Arya said, voice suddenly unsteady, "before you beat me to it." She opened the box. Inside sat a ring, an Erexian bonding crystal wrapped around a band of earth-forged silver. The crystal pulsed gently, reacting to the biosignature it recognized. "You're proposing?" Logan asked, stunned. "Yes," Arya said, "to the human who ruined my catalog shopping and accidentally sparked an interplanetary revolution." He stared at her, then grinned. "Well, damn, you beat me to it." He reached into his own pocket and pulled out another box, flipped it open. Arya gasped. Inside was a perfectly cut earth diamond set in a band of shimmering Erexian metal. "Let's call it a mutual ambush," Logan said. They laughed, loud, genuine, and the crowd erupted into applause, glittering petals raining down from the hovering platforms above. Later, as they walked together through the public gardens, hands linked to the delight of the hovering camera drones, Logan glanced sideways. "So," he said, "how does it feel to go from 'I bought you by mistake' to 'you're my fiancé'?" Arya smirked. "You were a very good investment. I come with free upgrades and inconvenient political opinions." They passed a group of young Erexians posing with a statue of the infamous hand-holding scene. One child looked up and whispered, "It's really him." Logan leaned down. "Don't believe everything you see in the holofilms." The child giggled and darted away. From across the square, General Margaret West approached, flanked by a delegation of Earth diplomats and Erexian council members. Despite her formidable presence, she wore a look of genuine pride. "General," Logan greeted. "Back to file more reports?" "Back to eat cake and give unsolicited relationship advice," Margaret replied. "You've done good, kid, but don't let it get to your head. A single misstep and you're back to being a diplomatic headache." Arya stepped forward and hugged her. Margaret froze just for a moment, then awkwardly returned the gesture with one armored arm. "I've decided I like you," the general said. Arya beamed. "Thank you, mother-in-war." Margaret sighed. "Please don't let that become a trending hashtag." Too late, nearby, a drone's caption read, "Hamat mother-in-war is watching you." That night, Logan and Arya sat on their shared balcony overlooking the twin moons of Erexia. Below, the city pulsed with soft lights. In the air, Mar hummed with peace, something both earned and fragile. Logan handed her a folded piece of paper. Actual paper, imported from Earth at great expense. "What's this?" Arya asked, unfolding it. "A letter," he said. "It's a human thing. We write stuff down when it matters." Which she read aloud. "To the princess who thought she bought a pet and found a partner. To the woman who saw beyond a label and stood between me and a weapon. I fell into your world by mistake. You turned that mistake into meaning. You held my hand and it shook an empire. You kissed me and made me real. Here's to wrong flights, right hearts, and love that rewrites the stars." A single tear, faintly glowing, slipped down her cheek. "You humans," she whispered, voice trembling. "You say things like no one else can." "And you Erexians," he replied, pulling her close. "You mean things like no one else does." Together they leaned into each other as the sky above sparkled with new constellations. Epilogue. Her side of the stars. "They used to call me cold, elegant, composed, untouchable. Even in a room full of admirers, I always felt like a sculpture, admired but never understood. I knew how to perform royalty, the tilt of a chin, the perfect pause in conversation, the gracious smile at just the right moment. It was all choreography. It kept me safe. Then he arrived, not in a parade, not in a noble ship, just dropped onto my carpet like a misdelivered package wrapped in sarcasm and confusion. He was loud, irritating, entirely too expressive, and somehow the most honest thing I had ever met. The first time he spoke back to me, I didn't know whether to be offended or delighted. He challenged everything I thought I knew. He refused to obey, refused to be cataloged, refused to be quiet. He made me feel, and I hated it. At first, and then I craved it. We broke every rule together. He shattered them, and I let him. He held my hand like it meant nothing. And in our world, that meant everything. His kiss triggered alarm sirens. His voice sparked council trials. But through it all, he looked at me, not as a princess, not as an owner, but as a woman who could choose who she wanted to be. I didn't know I needed that until he gave it to me. He taught me earth words like coffee, sarcasm, and grandma rage. He read me stories about revolutions fought with flowers, with letters, with love. In return, I showed him the stars through the palace skylight and taught him how to taste light through a crystal blossom. We rewrote our worlds together. I used to believe destiny was something you were born into, something inherited through bloodlines and ceremony. But Logan made me realize destiny can also be crashed into, held tightly, and kissed in defiance of a 1,000-year tradition. The night we both proposed at the same time, I nearly collapsed from laughter. Of course he'd try to out-romance me. Of course we'd ambush each other with rings. That's just who we are now. And when I read his letter, written in real earth ink on impossibly fragile paper, I cried. Not the way Erexians are trained to cry silently and gracefully. No, I cried like a human, messy, loud, honest. He calls me Aria, not princess. He says it like a melody. And every time he does, I remember what it felt like to belong to myself again. They used to call me cold. Now they call me reckless, rebellious, romantic. But what they don't know is this. I've never been more alive, and I've never been more mine, because of a human, because of him. Aria, from accidental pet to galactic partner. Logan didn't just change a planet, he changed a princess, a system, and maybe even destiny itself. And Aria? She found more than a companion. She found a reason to challenge everything she'd ever known. If you enjoyed this stellar journey of love, rebellion, and cosmic realignment, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Beyond the Stars. Because out here in the vastness of the unknown, the best stories aren't about conquering galaxies. They're about finding someone worth crossing the stars for.